Graham, you've been talking about research and the popularity of the research. In your speech, there was loads of things about the senior management. They're not against the research. That's a good news for the researchers.
Yes, it's our survey of researchers across European newspaper businesses demonstrated both a positive and a negative, that we're getting a lot of support from senior managers across our businesses. But at the same time, typically the investment is going down, so the amount of money being spent on research is reducing, because there are economic pressures on most publishing business in most European countries. And in turn, that's increasing the pressure on researchers to demonstrate that the work that they're doing is having a positive impact on the business and delivering a return on investment. So it's very much a mixed message. Great support from senior managers, a real appetite for research, although not necessarily making the same level of investment in it as perhaps has been the case in the past.
You've been talking about the circulation of the free newspapers, daily newspapers. There was about 160%. Remarkable for 4 years, 2004, 2008, and it's 120% circulation. So we've got new free newspapers. They're falling down, but there's still new ones. Is that I don't know? Is that the shape of the press market now? The free newspapers?
Certainly, there are many people who believe that free newspapers are the future, and it's the case in most, albeit not all, European countries, but most, that the circulation of paid-for newspapers, whether dailies or weeklies, is under pressure. Certainly in the UK, sales of daily newspapers has been in decline for quite some time, and the reasons for that are often not related to the product. It's about society and lifestyle issues. I recall, if you look in the UK and went back 20 or 30 years ago, there was no internet. There were a few commercial television stations, but only a few. Commercial radio was there, but newspapers really were still the dominant marketing media. It's all changed now, where actually nobody is the dominant marketing media, because it's a very fragmented media marketplace. So free newspapers have really found a niche because they fit into people's lifestyles, and many of those newspapers that I referenced that have sprung up across Europe over the past couple of years are being distributed at transport points. So when people are jumping onto trains or onto buses or onto trams, and actually those newspapers are really successfully grabbing 5 or 10 minutes of their readers' spare time at a time when there's not another media available to them. So yeah, there is an expectation that frees will continue to thrive and prosper as long as they can continue to reach people at the right point in time.
Probably the people are doing the same with the free newspapers and those newspapers that they've been paid already. They're just throwing them out. So the future probably will be the same for all the newspapers. They live not even a day.
Yeah, I think that's fair to say. Although I would say that that local newspapers are quite different, because in many markets they will be served by one local newspaper. And actually, if you live in that area and you're interested in your local football team or what's happening in the local schools or the local hospitals or with the local government and authorities, actually your only source is going to be that local newspaper. So quite just how disposable they are, I think, is subject to some debate yet. But going back to your point about paid-for or free newspapers, so there certainly will continue to be paid-for newspapers for many years to come in many, if not all, of our markets, as long as the content is worth paying for. In other markets, publishers will exploit the opportunity to go free in order to drive revenues from advertising, and I don't see any reason why that will change.
Your favourite football team?
It's Glasgow Celtic.
And the last question you said about research, lots of things about research, but is that research? What about the research efficiency?
I think that's a really good point, because technology has opened up a lot of new research techniques in the past in recent years. I think 10 years ago, if you spoke to a media or newspaper researcher like myself and asked, well, what kind of work do you do? We would have talked about focus groups. We would have talked about posting surveys out to people. We would have maybe talked about talking to people on the street and street interviews.
Can I ask you a question? The painting on the wall.
Yes, in terms of yeah, that cartoon based on Edvard Munch's The Scream, where in the background a couple of people are questioning. Oh, can I ask you a few questions?
Questionnaire with the questionnaire.
Yeah, yeah, and the reaction is, oh no, not another researcher. But going back 10 years, then we were limited in terms of the techniques that we used. Technology has opened up a vast array of options for us, and thinking about my own department and my business, we undertake a lot of work online now. We use email, we use our marketing database to track the views of the same group of people over time, but we're able to do that in a way that is really cost effective. So you can go back to your question about research efficiency. Technology is opening up ways of undertaking actually better research, but more efficiently as well, and certainly we're not alone in trying to exploit that, albeit there are still those pressures in terms of budget and continuing to prove that it's a worthwhile return on investment made.
It's not about a kind of research, but it's about efficiency.
And it's about whether the results make a difference. There is a tendency for some research to be deemed as interesting by the people to whom we present the results, colleagues in our newsrooms or our advertising departments or in the senior boardrooms. But actually, my view is that research is absolutely worthless unless it prompts an action to be taken. So I dread the reaction when I'm presenting some results for somebody to say that's really interesting. Because to say it's really interesting is usually the precursor to it then being put in the top shelf and never being looked at again. Actually, I would personally say that the real measure of research and efficiency is, are we making better decisions as a result?